Coaches and affiliate owners, we are super excited to launch our Fit Affiliate Founders League. It is hosted over on the School platform, and you'll find a link in the show notes or a link in our bio over on Instagram. This is a group where there will be high level conversation, high level thinking, critical thinking, creative thinking, a little bit of fun, but the end game is everybody is helping everybody else be better. So I'll see you over there.
Andrew's just too tall.
Yeah, Andrew is too tall.
Pretty
Very
decently. Decent.
Yeah.
Pretty decently sized for a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
Way above average.
On that note, welcome to the next episode of the Fit Affiliate podcast. Joined as always by my partners in crime, or whatever we want to call them, Tony and Andrew. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hola.
But
Thank you.
today, although they nearly didn't make it because of my excluding them from the link, but they're here now. I couldn't leave them out.
Correction. Lisa tried to keep us out of here, everybody. Just so you know, everybody listening here, Lisa tried her hardest today to keep me from the people.
Well,
Censored.
because we've got the one and only Daniel Hallanger from CrossFit Monolitten in Norway, and I've probably butchered all
One of my
that,
favorite
but-
countries in the planet. So I'm just pumped that he's here.
So I just wanted
might
to-
be my favorite country in the planet.
I just
Sorry,
want to
America.
keep
I am
Daniel to
American.
myself. I just want to have more chats with Daniel this week. But
Thanks, Lisa.
welcome,
Yeah.
welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. It's an honor.
And
Honored
we wanted to bring Daniel on for a chat today because he's about to embark on a very cool adventure with his family. And
Yes.
as at Fit Affiliate, we are all about finding freedom and pursuing freedom, and your affiliate supporting that. So I figured this was a good time for a chat right before he heads off into the sunset in his renovated fire truck into a camper van for he and his
Oh, that's
family
so cool.
for the next year, traveling around Europe.
I love it.
Yeah.
For sure.
So yeah, that's Daniel's.
That's it.
cool little
That's the end of the
adventure. Yeah, that's it
podcast.
for chat.
Yeah.
Daniel built out a fire truck. Everybody, he's
Yeah.
headed out into the Arctic Circle with his family, and the affiliate made it so. So we're done here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Daniel, I got a question
Yeah.
for you to start because I was actually very excited. Lisa sent an email explaining what you do
An email without the link.
without the link. So you can you explain a little bit, because I've worked for CrossFit and done like 300 seminars for like seminar team, et cetera, et cetera. I never get out of the United States. I barely ever get out of the little circle with like Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, where I'm at in the United States. My wife
Yeah.
has, however, been over your way.
Yeah.
So 2 affiliates or 1, or what's going on? Like, talk,
Yeah.
because I know Norway's not cheap. That's one thing I
Yeah.
know about Norway.
Yeah. That's why I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
No, making my money here and then traveling somewhere else.
There you
Yeah,
go.
that's traveling anywhere from Norway is also nice because everywhere is cheaper and everywhere is warmer. So it's nice to.
Not quite as pretty though. Just setting that up as a spoiler alert. You might have it cornered up there.
Yeah. No, it's a pretty sweet spot, corner of the world for sure. And I have lived in New Zealand for 4 years, together with my wife. So, that's another pretty corner of the world, but very far away from Europe and all the amazing culture and countries that we have very close by, actually. So the two of us, my wife especially, I guess, is a very adventurous person. She loves to travel. So I guess she's actually like at the forefront pulling this, or at least the idea. And then obviously I'm not hard pressed to do something like this. One of my core values is to create. So I'd love to think of something that we could do and then make it happen. Although it might seem very far-fetched or unrealistic. But I have my 2 affiliates now, co-owners. I do have co-owners, and with my first affiliate, soon to be 10 years, I have a very active co-owner. So that's a very beneficial position to be in. Very engaged, got good team there, so super relaxed there. And then I've had Monolith, this affiliate, for almost 7 years. Basically, uh, been running this much myself the past half year at least. And then so that's very exciting to try to set up the affiliates where I have been such a big piece in the last period. And then oh good, we didn't lose Tony
Just
permanently
playing
there.
peekaboo down
He's
here,
back.
everybody.
Yeah, so that has been a really tough, but also exciting and a time, and something that I've learned a lot from trying to do this as well, and obviously getting a lot of help from Lisa, having our chats, and like helping me, putting me on the spot if I haven't done something, or why didn't you prioritize this week, Daniel? And so that's a good help. Has made me come to where I am today, for sure. Yeah. But
And you've
then
got
yeah, also.
your
Pardon?
two young girls who are going along for the adventure. How old are your girls?
They're 4 and 7. So I figured, me and my wife, we figured it was the perfect age to bring them when they can actually like benefit and learn a lot from it, remember a lot from it, not only through pictures and videos, but also like the actual experience. And when mom and dad still are cool, like that's a little bit
I think you
good
guys
too.
will be cool for a while. I think that's an easy
I
one.
we will try our best. At least they're not growing out of their little bunk bed in the van by the time we get back. I hope not, or else I gotta get cracking building some more stuff in the van.
You're gonna need a bigger fire truck.
Yeah, roof tent or something. Yeah. So,
I personally, I mean, for me, when Daniel first sat down with me, I was made aware of what you were doing, and then obviously we hit it off for that reason. I think anybody listening to this knows that like I play outside like a giant child. So the idea of like packing your life into a van, he and I perfectly aligned. But the reason why I'm excited for you to be on this episode and to go live that adventure is exactly that, because one of the big problems that I think faces a lot of affiliate owners, maybe even I would say all of them, is kind of twofold. The first part of it being, what role does this play in my life, right? Meaning owning this business. And I think absent of getting into the more esoteric conversations like whys and missions and visions and stuff and purpose, I think most get very confused in terms of like paycheck, right? Like they want to be able to go home to family parties and things of that nature and be like, this business that I'm in is producing X, Y, or Z. And what's interesting about you, and I think valuable to anybody else, is through the development of the affiliate and through your focus on your creativity and your values, it's afforded you the ability to go do something that I think anybody listening to would be like, wow, like that sounds like freedom. We tend to talk about freedom a lot, but it ends up being very esoteric. Like, what do you want freedom to be? But I think everybody who listens to like what you're about to do probably has the same reaction, which is like, that certainly does sound like freedom. I like put my family in the van and just head out and not have a care in the world. Naturally, of course, there's cares, but so I think for affiliate owners, that's a very inspirational story, right? And that's the first part of it. The second part of it is, understanding that the purpose of business is to build and improve your quality of life. And I think you've really done a good job of that. And you've worked very hard to protect that piece of it, not to be your life. And we see so many people end up, not just an affiliate owner, right? Small business in general, where they've been glorified or the grind has been glorified. And so they give their life to the business instead of, take back from it. And so for everybody listening to it, I'm excited because hopefully it gets them to be like, could I do something like that with my affiliate? Could, you don't have to pack your family in a van and head out, although it'd be sweet if you did. But like, what does that look like, right? What is your quote unquote van? What is your year of adventure, right? What is that thing? And I think what it will do, and the reason why I'm excited about this, is cause you to challenge your own beliefs about life. So anybody that's listening to this, I think through your story will be like, why do I have a hard time believing that I can actually create my ideal future? And why do I feel like my future has to be defined by what I do for a living? And I think a lot of people end up getting sucked into that one. And so
I think
hopefully
your whole statement, what you just said, if I do it in one sentence, affiliate owners struggle with limited belief thinking.
For sure.
Yeah, and we surely feel like we're very important to the business, and we are. But it's if unless you have like, so we're going to be away for about 11 months, give or take. So it's a long time. It's nothing like you just survive that as a intermediate,
Right.
what do you say, situation where like, yeah, it's going to be fine, just like I'll be back soon and then I'll fix everything,
Just let it
like,
smolder, it'll be fine.
yeah. So it's not a time frame like that. This is more like it needs to be set up so that things will work out fine when I'm gone, and this has definitely been a catalyst for me to do what I've said that I wanted to do, and that is making my business less reliable on me, because I just have a job, right? I don't have I didn't have freedom, and not time or money, like it was, but then we started this process about 5 years ago. I've always had a dream of like sailing around the world, so like I had that kind of dream, but then it changed a little bit, and then it was like, okay, we're gonna do it in a van,
Do it
and
on
then
the land instead.
yeah. And then Europe is fine, like we don't want to like be too much in a hurry, so we'll cover Europe. That's going to be fine. But yeah, we started that actual like more precise dream about 5 years ago, and then about 3 years ago we started to like make plans. Like we obviously savings. We started looking at vans. We saw this van that we have now, which is like, we weren't planning on buying anything at that point, but we saw the van and we were like,
Yes.
okay, this is the one. And like it just like a week later we had it, and then and that's been really really good actually. Spending some time with an old car, getting to know it. But yeah, so it's been a long process. But then again, it is like anything, when you approach a deadline, then it's really like the tough things have to be done. Like when you have your back against the wall, that's when you make progress. And that's something that I learned also, that sometimes you got to just like pretend like you have your back against the wall just earlier. That then when the time is actually there. So there's so much more to be achieved through a sense of urgency and action. And I think we procrastinate through insecurity, limited beliefs. We can still get away with not doing the hard stuff. So it's definitely, and I won't say that doing this like this time for me would make it a lot easier next time I want to do something hard. But at least I know what's going into it, feels like, and what it is going through it. So, and yeah, it's a lot of learning, but it's hard. It's tough. Like if you want to achieve or do something a little bit out of the ordinary, or create that time and space. It's not easy, but it's doable. And I think for us, it's been my big thing has been time with the kids when they're this age, with the family, with the wife, and just a slower life where we can be um, less interrupted in our daily living together. Um, and just already, like the last few weeks, because now we don't live in our apartment anymore, like it's already rented out. We were up all night trying to get that done the last night, like doing everything last moment. But we're living in our van now, just outside the gym here. And then already having
work.
Pardon?
It's a long commute to work for you guys now. It's a long walk.
Yeah, we're just here all the time. And just being in the van makes me a little bit more aware of when I'm actually like tuned into the family, and when I am there, but I'm affected by how I act, by how I communicate, through like the stressors that are present now here at work. So obviously I got a few things that aren't fixed by the time I'm going to go. So, and I really notice now in my communication how that I can be shorter. I could be like firmer with the kids, just from me having thoughts about something else. And that's something that I really want to be able to live without for a while.
There's a lot of gold in this for affiliate owners if you kind of look past surface level. I don't want anybody to listen to this be like, is this podcast telling me I need to go live in a van down by the river? Yes, but not really. Not like literally, but potentially figuratively. When Daniel came to us, I was excited about it because one of the things that ends up happening for most of the projects that we take on is twofold. The first one is most motivation by the time you get to my calendar is to get out of pain, not necessarily get into heaven, as we call it. And that was a little bit different than you because we knew that you were trying to create this ideal future. So that was exciting to me, more so than just like, hey, help me fix this thing. Sure, there was some things that needed to be fixed, of course. But then the second part of that is that once we get an affiliate owner, it's called out of pain, their motivation wanes. It drops substantially. So one of the big challenges we have long term is, once things are quote unquote fixed, what are we going to do next, right? Like, and for some affiliate owners, that feels like you're asking me to intentionally break things. No, it's threshold training, right? I'm asking you to stress test them and move forward. And so one of the ways that we do that, or suggest it for most of the clients, is we call it the hit by the bus test. I guess it's funny because you're getting on a bus, but the hit by the bus test is, if I take Daniel out of his affiliate, how long will it operate before it fails? And so I knew that we had a built-in hit by the bus test because like you were about to be gone for a year, right? Which was like, this is the most real hit by the bus test possible. Plus you had a deadline. You're like, September, I'm out, right? Which was so exciting for us, is to be like, I almost knew your project couldn't fail because those things were built in. And the reason why I bring that up is if you're listening to this, affiliate owners, there's a couple of pieces that are golden there. One, you've probably heard us talk about Parkinson's law, which is essentially that work will expand to fill the time allotted to it. That sums up the struggle for affiliate ownership, just like it did when you went to college, right? When nobody told you had to get up in the morning or get to class or do whatever you want to do, you spent as much time doing everything else till all of a sudden you had to cram, right? You had to fit everything in. You had to get it done at the last second. And affiliate ownership feels a lot like that, I think, for most affiliate owners, where like there is no quote unquote accountability upstream. So they just kick the can. They stretch everything out. And what could get done in days, weeks, and months takes months, years, decades. And so what I think is important about what you did, you don't need to get into a van. You don't need to build out a van. and do those things, but you can shrink time, right? And I think what was cool about your project, I talked about this in the Founders League group yesterday, which is scaffolding. And really what you did in psychology was build a scaffolding, right? Scaffolding is essentially intrinsic or extrinsic motivation and inspiration to effectively level up. If you wouldn't have had this looming deadline, this goal, this stress test, the things that got done this year would probably have gotten done, but not likely this year, right? Not likely in the months that got done. And so it was a forced leveling up. And now you get the reward of like going on a trip. And don't get me wrong, there'll be 11 months of trials, tribulations, struggles, and adventure, right? And I'm sure there'll be things you work through there. And the same thing will happen. And like, I think it's very cool. So anybody's listening to this, you don't have to get in the van, but do shrink time, right? Build that scaffolding, build that forced, apparatus in your life that will force you to think twice about, hey, why put off to tomorrow what I can get done today? And it's a little bit helpful when you got someone like Lisa being like, Daniel, why didn't you do the thing, right? But, absent of that, just shrink time. And I think that's a very cool part of this story.
I think one of the big learnings that we've had this year, Daniel, particularly is the ability to prioritize and what is the next most important thing that's going to get me closer to getting on that bus. I think I might have said that to you a few thousand times this year, but also not having the quest for perfection. Like done is better than perfect, and rather than working your way through something and getting almost like that paralysis by analysis, which you'll admit that's always been a struggle. It's like, well, September's coming, we need to make this decision and put this brick in place. Like now, what's the thing that's stopping you? And I think that's been a really big transition for you in seeing the different things that were not priorities, which you were able to then prioritize just because this deadline, it was a hard deadline. Like you and I had a conversation, you didn't want to say to your wife, listen, can we push it back a month? Can we push it back 2 months? You said that's a conversation I'm not prepared to have. That's not going to be cool.
Yeah, definitely. There's so much learning in that in this period and in this process, and also some of the things that I became aware of because I had to reflect, why didn't I do this, or why didn't I get to that, and it's just, for example, one of those big things, I like so many, I guess, coaches and affiliate owners, I love to serve. And I want it, like something we talk often about is we want to create a wow experience, meaning that they get more than they expected, like every time. And we want to create results that people talk about. And I love so much chasing that and then serving people. So I had to stop being so ambitious on that part and trying to get my team to deliver on all that instead of me always running around trying to do that. So I have to level up as a leader as well for my team. And like Lisa said, don't try to like run around like turning light switches. Try to make this team so that you can just flick the big switch and then all the lights go on, kind of deal. Yeah. So lots of
statement. And it's not just about like setting deadlines to get stuff done. It's like the amount of discomfort it would take to go through to do what you did. We got to be first row to it, effectively, so much so that you actually kind of became a verb internally with some other clients who stagnated. I was like, how do we Daniel them? How do we get them to put a deadline in place? Because one of the things that, and most people don't know this that are outside of it, one hallmark achievement of what we'll call it like phase one of a client journey here is we force them to take a vacation, but like an extended vacation, and they don't necessarily need to go anywhere, but they literally have to leave the business. And as you can imagine, all the same things come up, right? Like, oh, I'm so good at what I do, I never realized that my team is absolutely terrible at it. right? They've never needed to be good at that part of it. They did the other stuff, or like,
Mm.
I don't, oh, nobody has that login, or nobody has this thing. And that's why we call it the hit by the bus test. But, you know, it's very cool and it's very rewarding. And I've really appreciated being a part of that journey with you, because I do think it's super cool to see you go do this thing. And I think in many ways, it'll just be inspiration to a lot of people to see, you know, you head off and do this thing and work through the other stuff. And I'm excited about that. But for anybody that's listening to it, you don't necessarily need to go in the van for 11 months, but I do think you should consider, you know, putting this system into place where it's like 3 months from now, 6 months from now, I'm going to walk away, right? I'm going to step out for a month, 2 months, 3 months. And what's interesting about this, the first thing you'll work through is like, wouldn't that make me lazy? Well, that's the first limiting belief, right? We got to talk about why that narrative is in your brain and why you think that you're a product or you're validated by how hard you work. The second thing that you have to consider is like the fear and the vulnerability of building a team, right? Somebody's going to have to do this without you. That's scary. And then you might realize, oh, the reason I work so hard and the reason I have to do everything is because my insecurity makes sure that I stay in that position because I don't trust anybody else to do it. Right. So you got to work through that one. There's just so many of those cool milestones. I could keep going, but I think it's very rewarding to do it. And I wouldn't say it's a simple thing to do. It's simple. It's not easy.
Yeah, and it's all like on a is it called a trajectory, or like you're at some point on the spectrum, let's say, you know, like at some point, like I'm good at believing in myself that you know, doing this doesn't make me lazy, or you know, but other days you're a little bit more like unsure, and you're so like always on a spectrum of these different like beliefs and feelings. But just being more aware of them and handling them a little bit better, and also being very aware of all the positive things that are happening as I'm progressing through this and working through this. I create also opportunities for other people, and like I've leveled up my business as well, like because I was like, okay, how do I now level up and make a little bit more like a higher average revenue per member, because I need to make sure that I have enough money in my business to be attractive as an employer. So because that's not a situation I want to be in when this time comes, that I have to find someone that will just take care of my business out of passion. That's a bad position for me to be in. So obviously I started working my behind off a good while back, really just diving in and making sure that I got to some new milestones, and then I could start to like layer on to my team with people that could be handed over tasks and be trained.
And I think having that awareness too of like, you know, Andrew, you said, you know, we get stuck as affiliate owners. We're in this bubble. We have these limiting beliefs that kind of give us this perception of this is what I'm supposed to do. But your awareness that you're on a spectrum, and some days you're towards the better end, and other times you might struggle. But then having the awareness to be able to go, hang on a minute, I know that's that thing that I'm doing. And when we're stuck in the day-to-day bubble and we're fighting the fires, it can be really hard to see that and move beyond that. So that's, you know, a good awareness that you've developed as well, and been able to step outside yourself almost to go, who do I need to be to make this happen?
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Lisa. And I think sometimes you have to snap that trajectory of thought. And I own, this is weird because I'm using an exercise reference. We never talk about exercise, but we're going to. With CrossFit, it's actually more easy than people believe to show up to a class every day, and the type of methodology we have. And you can kind of smash yourself. And on days where you shouldn't smash yourself, like if anyone wears a Whoop and they're on a red recovery, they still come in and smash at 21:59. They're like, yeah, whatever, man. Like, screw this Whoop. I'm still going to wear it. And at least for me, I've been training running. I'm terrible. I mean, better than most, but like in terms of a runner, I'm not a good runner for distance. And like I use an analogy, like today I ran a 6 mile. First time I ever ran 6 miles. And
good job, buddy.
Yeah, thank you. And I was the whole time I had ran 4 miles probably like a week and a half ago at it was 7:32 on the Garmin. So like full
That's cruising.
7:30. Yeah, it's cruising, right? So I'm like, oh, 2 more miles. Like I did 8:30 today for 6, and it about smoked me because it did not matter. My body was saying, you are not going to move your feet as fast as you think you are today because you're tired.
Yeah.
Your legs are tired from something you did, or I don't know, you're not recovered. And so I feel like that's like an example in the business. It's like sometimes you need to be exposed to snapping the limited beliefs. And that's that spectrum you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, to use the analogy of the bubble of limiting beliefs, like you said, I think a big piece of snapping or popping that bubble is to realize that you first and foremost blew that bubble, right? Like nobody just put you inside this bubble. You're the one holding the bubble wand who's been blowing it. Therefore, you're the first one that can pop it. And in Daniel's story, I know Lisa plays a large role because like having a coach in your life to be like, hey, is this a problem? Or are you making you one? Or like, it's an interesting response you're having to this thing. Want to talk about that? Just things like that. But most importantly, those things aside, it's to your point, Daniel, remembering, the wins, remembering the gains, the milestones, the stuff that you have gotten right. Because, growth is always a very bumpy road, and it never really ever feels like you're on the right path until you look back and you're like, whoa, we've come a long way. And I do think in terms of popping that bubble and realizing what you're capable of, it starts first with realizing that you blew the bubble, right? You put yourself in the bubble, and because of that, you can blow any bubble you want. So you might as well blow one that's got a cooler future like yours. And I think that's the beauty of business. The thing that draws me to helping some people with business is like, I don't really care how much money anybody makes. Lots of good things happen when you make more money. What I care about is how cool your life becomes. And there's just not really any way to do that as well when you're in a job, in a career, in a W-2, and you trade, that opportunity for adventure for that quote unquote security, but the real reason it's a problem is you can't, as somebody who is working in a corporate job, who's making golden handcuffs income, I can't come to them and say, hey, in September, you're going to quit your job and you're going to go live in a van for 11 months because they're like, I make too much money. As a business owner, I could be like, hey, in September, you're just going to leave your business and it's going to keep making money. And the thing that you will learn in that process is the thing that is so eye-opening to every business owner. Oh, I'm the problem, right? Like what you learn in this story is that everywhere I go, there I am, not in a bad way, but to your point of like creating opportunities. If you're the one doing everything proudly, arrogantly, or ignorantly, or otherwise, somebody else doesn't get to do it. Limited opportunity for those people. If you're the person who's doing everything, the business can only grow so far because you're one person. And so it's like you learn the age-old lesson of remove the owner and remove the limitations. And that's very hard for a lot of people because they're so proud. They're like, nobody cares like I care. That's the problem. You're right. Nobody does care like you care. And you're controlling it into an environment where only you can get it there.
This will probably be my next post in school, but I feel like you guys, because since I'm not necessarily a coach, and what Affiliate's done a great job of is allowing people to pursue their talents, not pursuing passions. That's definitely my next post because going on in that, like we're all very passionate about something. It doesn't mean we're talented in everything. And I've been obsessed with that quote for the last probably like 7-8 days. I heard it, a wealth coach talk about it, where it's like too many people waste their lives trying to pursue their passion, where they were actually skilled and they can do things in their business, what they're talented in. But you're pursuing your passion because that sounds good. I'll pursue my passion and never work a day in my life. Like,
But I think like one of the cool things from, all the conversations, and we've had a lot of conversations this past year, Daniel, is just this week when you were saying that, the girls sat down to do their schoolwork because they're, basically homeschooling now, you could sit down and do a little bit of work at the same time, but still be engaged with them. And you said to me, it was very cool because we're all sitting here working on something that was important to each of us, and you could all be connected in that moment rather than, you're off here and you realize that you could still be productive and get things done that you need to get done, but you can also have this balance with it as well, that you can engage with the girls and bring them along for, that part of the journey, like they're present with you while you're doing things and you're present with them while they're doing things.
Yeah, that's really something that I think we will cherish a lot. That because we're going into an everyday life for us as well. Like these 11, 12 months, it's gonna be our everyday life. Oh, like it's gonna be obviously like holidays, but it's gonna be like you got to do your laundry, you got to do your dishes, you got to plan for your groceries, and even harder in a small fridge in a van, and you got to only use this limited amount of water and electricity, like we're an off-grid self-sustainable van basically. So a lot of things is and rules are set in place there as well. So it's going to be an everyday life, but it's going to be one where I can spend so much time with the people that matters the most to me. So it's been a very nice thing to have a little bit of taste of that right now. So I also said to Lisa, like, I've been running so fast now. I've been chasing so hard. I've been working so hard. Like no holidays, nothing now for a while, because that's how you achieve a dream. You get your head down and you work hard. And so I'm really ready to soak it all in and get to experience a little bit of that I had a taste from now. I'm not saying everything's going to be roses and shiny, like it's going to be tough days as well, but I'm really looking forward to embrace what of a situation I've been able to like create for myself.
And I think that's the important bit there that you said you've been able to create for yourself, because you have, this was an idea that you and your wife had. You sourced the van, you built the van out, like you've done all the build out, which has been cool to sort of see that along, through what you've posted on your socials, and then to see it actually come to life to this tangible thing where, and what your real life will look like. Like you had homeschooling in the morning, they were sitting with books, and then the next photo was the girls cleaning the van. And it's kind of like, with the hose washing the van. And that's kind of like, this is going to be our new normal, and the girls are going to get to experience a broader spectrum. And we were just talking before we went live about, you don't have all their books and templates and stuff for their school at the moment. So you're creating things, but the girls have to now create things. So rather than just sitting and waiting for their multiplication tables to be handed to them, that stuff's probably going to be a little more sticky now because they've had to create it themselves. So I think your whole journey has been about creation, like creating opportunities for other in the gym, creating opportunities for your family, and creating experiences. So I think that that's super powerful. And I know that you do have to run off because you do have to coach a class, but we're very excited to see the bus launch on the road and follow along. What's your Instagram account that if people want to follow along your journey of freedom?
Yeah, it's the four of us in the bus, and it's all in letters. All in letters.
Truly, I do think if you guys should follow him. I mean, and if I'm being like, I'm so proud of you. I know it was not easy. I know how hard you worked. And if I'm being open and vulnerable, these are the exact stories why I started this company. It was exactly this, and it will almost make me choke up talking about it, because the moment you sat down with the family and you got to be present, and you got to be the husband, you got to be the father, you got to be the man that you wanted to be, that we can't be once you're stuck behind this identity of whatever it is. It's cool to see it happen. And regardless of how the 11 months turn out, we're very proud of what you've done. And anybody else that's listening to this, you could do it too. Maybe not the van part of it, but follow along, watch Daniel's adventures. But truly, I'm very proud of you, man.
Yeah, thank you so much. That means a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Daniel. And we'll catch you guys on the next one.